All right, if you've been in the college recruiting process for any amount of time, you know the transfer portal is wreaking havoc on high school athletes' recruiting processes. And today, I want to share a story that sort of highlights the current state of college recruiting. So this happened last week, probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago, something like that. I was on the phone with one of our clients, and this is the situation that they found themselves in. So this family, we get on the phone, and there are two schools in this conversation that we were talking about. The family's talking to a lot of schools, but there were two in particular who invited them to camps. Now, these two schools had already seen a bunch of video of him, and then one of the schools in particular is a really high academic Division I school. They've talked to him on the phone like 4 or 5 times. They've seen him play live like 4 times. And yet they're still saying, we got a camp later this month. We'd love to see you there. Now, for a lot of people, you're probably getting inundated with these camp invites. And one of the mistakes about these camp invites is thinking that they mean absolutely nothing. Now, I understand the frustration behind camps and showcases. A lot of them are money grabs. There's really no doubt about that. But at the same time, a camp invite can be a foot in the door that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So it's not about, oh, we just got these generic camp invites. Yeah, but what did you do with them? Because we have been able to turn a ton of generic camp invites that look like they're money grabs into massive scholarship offers that kids are accepting and taking. And so you need to actually do something with these camp invites. But in this case, they'd already talked to him 4 or 5 times on the phone. They've already seen him play like 4 times live. Him going to another camp is not really going to accomplish that much. And so we were on the phone and they were saying, Jack, how do we handle this? I don't know how we handle like this camp invite, because I don't want to shut off the school, because I'd like to go to the school. Like, it's a good offer and we could leverage that offer against other offers. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to the camp. Like, they've already seen me a lot. And stay tuned, because this story revolves around the recruiting process and specifically the transfer portal. Okay. That's what we're mainly talking about here. So anyway, I give them this script to get on a phone call with this coach. All right. So they get on a phone call and I tell them exactly what to say on this phone call. And after they say their piece, the coach goes, hey, I just want to thank you so much for being honest with me. Like, that makes my job a lot easier. So I will also be honest with you, since you have been honest with me. And the coach now proceeds to tell this athlete that they currently have 2 offers out to transfer portal kids, and one of them is 22 years old. And he said, if one of those athletes doesn't accept, then you're our next guy off the board, and we'll give that offer to you. But the offers that are currently out for this team are to transfer portal athletes, collegiate athletes, and one of them is 22 years old. So here you have a high school athlete who's 17 years old, who is now competing against a 22-year-old athlete for the same spot, the same one. Now, flip those, because sometimes it's hard to understand the drastic difference between a 17-year-old and a 22-year-old. So what about the difference between a 17-year-old and a 12-year-old? That's the difference in age that we're talking about. The difference in size, speed, strength, maturity, experience, it's not even close. And that's a huge reason why a lot of these college coaches view collegiate athletes in the transfer portal as a safer bet, a less risky investment than going to get a high school kid who's not as physically developed, who hasn't stepped on campus yet, who hasn't been away from home yet, who hasn't played against collegiate competition yet. It's a much riskier bet. And this is the game and the world that you are now living in if you have a high school athlete who's trying to get recruited. And so for this athlete, this high school athlete who's a good player, they're talking to a significant number of schools. Like, if you were talking to the number of schools that they're talking to, you would probably be overwhelmed. Like, a ridiculous amount of schools. And yet, he's not on the board yet. He doesn't have an offer from this school yet, because they have 2 offers out to collegiate athletes. And if those athletes say no, then they'll go to him. And you're going to see this across a lot of college recruiting, where college coaches are going to prioritize offers out to transfer portal athletes. And only if those athletes say no are they going to go get high school kids. Now, there are exceptions to this. If the high school athlete is incredibly talented, then that would be an exception. Another exception is there are going to be programs who still prioritize developing from the ground up. They like to get kids who are fresh, who have a clean slate, high school athletes over collegiate athletes, right? So there will be some programs like that, but by and large, you're going to see a lot of these collegiate programs go after college kids, 22-year-olds who are competing against your 17-year-old, right? It used to be, here's what's crazy. It used to be that in the recruiting process, you didn't compete against collegiate athletes until you were also a collegiate athlete, right? Like once you signed and you accepted the scholarship offer and you stepped on as a freshman, there was still a 4-year gap between freshmen and seniors, but you were also now a collegiate athlete. But with what's going on in the recruiting process right now, you're competing with collegiate athletes as a high school athlete, or like your high school athlete. That's what they're competing against right now. So it just makes the whole world completely different and significantly harder for high school athletes to get recruited to play college sports. Now, don't let anybody fool you. High school athletes are still getting D1 offers. I sent an email out to our email list this morning about this, which is that like there's a lot of people who say, oh, high school kids can't get D1 offers anymore. That's not true. The high school athletes who can't get D1 offers, the reason that happens is one of three things. Their kid is not good enough to play Division I. Their kid is good enough to play Division I, but they don't know how to market them to college coaches. Or their kid is capable of playing at Division I. They know how to market their kid to college coaches, but they started too late. One of those three things is true if you think that your kid can't play at a Division I level, okay? For athletes where those are not the case, then like you can absolutely get to a Division I level. We just had a kid commit to Stanford on a full ride plus rev share, like a high school kid. So you can absolutely still make this happen, but it's not nearly as easy as it used to be. And it used to be hard, and now it's even harder. But don't let people confuse you. You could still get D1 offers as a high school athlete, but this is the world that you now live in. And so there's a couple things that we've been doing to combat the transfer portal and trying to prove that a high school kid is not as risky of an investment as a college coach might think. And so some of the ways that we do that, one is that we provide 4 times as much evidence that the kid is good than we used to. So if you used to need 10 videos, I'm making up a number. If you used to need 10 videos, we'll provide 40 now. Right? If you need stats from 1 season, we'll provide stats from 4. If you need 1 award or accomplishment, we'll try to provide 4 or 5. And so you basically just like quadruple the amount of evidence that you're actually good, right? If you're like, Jack, are you guys any good at helping kids get scholarships? Then I could say, well, we helped 1 kid get a scholarship, or I could say 2 or 3 or 4 or 600, right? And so there's a difference between those numbers. And it's simply the quantity of proof that you are competent. The second thing that we'll do is we vary the types of evidence. So you don't just want to provide one type of evidence, but multiple. So you're showcasing lots of different sides of the athlete. So video is always going to be, the most important evidence digitally. In-person evaluation is going to be the most important evidence probably of all of them. But you have other types of evidence. You have stats, you have awards and accomplishments, you have coach recommendations. Like there's a lot of other types of evidence that you have, and you want to use all of them. Again, you are trying to de-risk your high school athlete. And by not only having a ton of evidence, but varying the different types of evidence, you're making that happen. You're giving yourself a better shot at competing against collegiate athletes. Some of the other things that we'll do, we'll contact lower level schools in addition to Division I schools. This helps us build momentum. It helps us build leverage. It helps us build confidence, and it creates a safety net in case the D1 schools never come knocking. The other thing that we'll do in terms of evidence is we'll provide evidence for a longer period of time. So one of the ways that you de-risk an investment is seeing how it performs over a longer period of time. If a stock does really well in 1 month, then that's not really telling you that much. If that stock has performed well for 5 years, that's a different story, right? And so the longer that you look at or evaluate an investment, the safer it feels when you do take a chance on it. And the same thing is true for college coaches and high school athletes. The longer that they have to evaluate a high school athlete, the more confident they're going to be that that really is the player they're looking for. And so instead of only communicating with college coaches for like 2 or 3 months before you get an offer, which used to be like pretty standard. Nowadays, a lot of coaches are looking for a minimum of 6 months, some of them 9 months, some of them even 12 plus months. And so it's another reason why it's helpful to start early in the process, because the later that you start, you just run out of time to be able to do that. So the longer that a coach evaluates your kid, the more you're de-risking that investment for them. So there's other ways that we've been de-risking the investment, and part of the reason that we've been able to continue to generate results amidst what's going on in the transfer portal right now. But those are a few of them. But I just wanted to share this video today because I think sometimes a lot of parents want to know, like, what are other parents experiencing in the recruiting process? Are we ahead? Are we behind? Are they getting email responses? Are they getting DM responses? What are the phone call conversations looking like? How much scholarship money are they getting? Are they getting rev share? There's like this big culture in recruiting of wanting to know what is everybody else experiencing. And so hopefully this story provides a little bit of context as to like some of the other conversations that our athletes are having with college coaches. And so for this athlete in particular, the school loves him and they think that he's great, but they got two offers out to college players right now. And if those two players take him, then he's out of luck. But if one of those guys doesn't, then he's the next one off the board. And I think that that's true for a lot of college programs right now. They prioritize college players. If they don't get the ones they want, then they're going to fall back to high school athletes. And so you just have to be prepared for that. And in today's recruiting world, you can't really be laissez-faire about the whole thing. You have to attack the process and take every single piece of it very seriously. You have to dial in every part of your machine if you want to be able to compete against kids who are 3, 4, 5 years older than your kid in just a completely wigged out recruiting process. It's such a new thing. People are still trying to figure out how this works and what this looks like. And so it's about adaptation. People doing something different than traditionally how kids have gotten recruited for the last, 30 years. And so those who are able to adapt are going to get the 6-figure scholarships, and those who aren't. And the funny thing is that I'll finish with this is that the high school athletes that we're working with, it might be harder than ever to get scholarship offers. Those who do are getting bigger and better offers than ever before. They're getting more scholarship money. They're getting NIL, rev share deals. Like there is more money in college sports than literally ever before. And so yes, the process might be harder than ever, but the rewards are also better. So there's a little bit of a yin and yang there. Anyway, if you are the parent of a high school athlete in the recruiting process and you want help navigating through this and you want like an end-to-end program that gives you everything you need to combat the transfer portal, to give your kid the best shot at getting a scholarship, then there's a link in the description to schedule a call with us. We'll walk you through our program, see if it's a good fit, and we can go from there. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time.